My name's Father Stephen Gorddard. I'm a priest for the Archdiocese of Perth. I grew up in Bunbury, the youngest of 4 children, and faith was always something that was really important for our family. It was a natural part of our family. We would pray together most evenings and go to church together every Sunday. And even though I was really small and could barely understand what was going on, I always knew that Mass was something important and special. I remember my father saying we were washing up dishes one time, and he was talking about the priesthood, and he said, you know, of all the different professions you can have prime ministers and kings and lawyers who are so well paid, yet between them and God, the priest brings all their prayers and petitions to God and brings back graces and mercies to them. And that always stuck with me. I always carried this perception of the priesthood, that the priesthood is something special. And I would often share with others at school that I was thinking about the priesthood, but I'd get ridiculed straight away because it wasn't cool. And I learned to kind of bury that in a sense. When I was in university, I met a friend who spoke to me about being a Catholic, however they'd left it all behind. And they challenged me. They said, why are you Catholic, Stephen? Why do you still follow this faith which is not based on the Bible at all? And their challenge really threw me off because I'd never encountered this kind of talk before. And I tried to argue with my friend, and God was using, I guess, my pride in trying to win this argument to work on me. I didn't end up convincing my friend, but I convinced myself that there was something really profound and really deeply true about the Catholic faith. And it was at that point that I knew I needed to look into my faith more, this thing that I'd taken for granted, that in some ways I was still adhering to, but not in a deep way, to re-engage with it. So I started learning and studying more about it. I started spending more time with people who had the faith and who were living it out, to learn from them. What I found more and more as I looked around in the culture, as I looked around my friends and what was happening in our world, was that so many people in our world were hurting. So many people in our world were carrying deep wounds, that there was a certain despair, a loneliness, something missing. And yet the church had this great news to share, that they didn't have to be afraid, that Christ came to heal our wounds. And it eventually led towards a decision to leave behind my studies in chemical engineering and management, and to really discern full-time, in a way, this call, perhaps to the priesthood. I didn't know for sure, but I knew I had to spend time to figure it out. I was also very involved in youth ministry, stepping up to take leadership roles in different youth groups and movements. And that was really formative for me to see, how do I respond in a role of ministry, in a role of leadership. And it was in that situation and within the friendships and discernment with spiritual directors that I knew for sure that this was something that I had to do. I went and called my parents and I told them about the news, and they were really shocked. And I thought this was strange because I'd told them for many years now that I was thinking about this. I'd left my studies and they wanted to know why. But it turns out that my brother had just told them about a week earlier that he was also joining the seminary. So they didn't tell me. It was the next day, my brother phoned up from Melbourne where he was doing some studies, and he was telling me this news that he had. And so he took all the wind out of my sails, because I had this breaking news that I was going to be joining the seminary, but he kind of beat me to it. But it was a great providence of God. Here I was, how anxious I was about preparing for the priesthood, about getting all my plans together, and God had got the best preparation ready for me. A companion, a brother, someone I could trust unconditionally, who would be there through that whole journey to support me, be someone who could share all the different ups and downs of seminary life with me. It was an incredible gift. As a priest now, I'm really relishing the opportunity to now serve the people that for so long I dreamt of, being able to make a difference in their lives, being able to be there at those really critical moments. I always thought that would be the other guy, that would be someone else who would be able to make that difference. But finding that God has used me and called me along to serve the people and be their priest.